Hi, welcome to the Old Farts Fix a Corner. You guessed it, I'm the old fart. The Fix a Corner, what it's all about is using some of the things that I learned, the tricks that I learned, and the experience that I got through 20 plus years in the construction business to help you fix some things at home. You can do the work yourself, and you don't have to spend the money on having somebody else do it. So let's talk about the project today. Today we're going to repair these concrete steps. Now, as you can see, some of the concrete has begun to crumble and break away at the bottom of the steps, and the sand that was used for filler is coming out. It appears that when these steps were originally built, the filler was too close at the bottom of the lower step, causing the concrete to be a little thin. It's really not a smear on the original contractor because these steps were built in the late 50s and it's now 2011. It's important to remove some of the sand and any loose concrete from the damaged area. If any of the step is showing more damaged concrete, we need to remove that as well because it's just going to crumble at another time. And we want to make sure that we have about 2 or 3 inches of space for the concrete, the new concrete, to go into. As you can see, we cleaned up real good around here. It's important to keep a good clean job site, and especially when we start to put our concrete in, we don't want any of that sand or debris laying around, so we've cleaned it up really well. Next thing that we're going to need to do is we're going to need to cut some pieces of wood that are going to act like a dam, or contractors call it a form. It's going to hold the concrete in place until it sets up and gets hard enough that it won't run out. So we're going to have to make a couple. First of all, we need to make sure that the board is tall enough to cover our area here. And we have about 7 inches from the ground to almost the top of the step in the highest spot. So we're going to have to use a piece of 2x8, which is somewhere between 7 1/4, 7.5 inches tall actually, and that's what we're going to use to do this. Now on this side over here, on the short side, we're going to cut our piece of 2x8 to the exact length because this step back here actually sticks out further than the step that we're repairing. So we're going to want to go right to there, and we're going to want it to stop right out here at this corner so that when we put our other form in across the front here, it can hang out past it. We're not worried about this form being the exact length, just as long as it's at least long enough to cover our area. So we know that it's 2x8, and if we measure from there out to our corner, in this case, it's 25 1/4 inches long. So that's what we're going to cut our board at, is 25 1/4 inches. All right, as you can see, we have our 2x8 here, and this 2x8 happens to be 7 1/4 inches tall. So that's tall enough to fill our gap, to make our dam. So our measurement was 25 1/4 inches. So I'm going to go ahead and mark this at 25 1/4, and then I'm going to take a square and I'm going to make a nice square mark because we want to make sure that we have a nice straight cut whenever we cut our board. All right, we're ready to cut our board now. Well, you know, one of the problems that you have when you're working by yourself, oftentimes if you don't have somebody to help you hold the board, when you're pushing the saw through the board will actually slide on you, and it's hard to hold by yourself. So what I have done in the past, one of those little tricks that we have, is hold the board on an angle so that when you're pushing the saw through the board, it's actually pushing into the horse and it's not sliding on you. So we're going to go ahead and cut our board now. I'm going to hold it on an angle. All right, and there's our cut. Now before we go any further, we want to make sure that these boards are going to fit and do the job that we want them to do. So let's carry them over here. And of course, this long one, we know that it doesn't matter because it can hang out past, but it looks like it's just long enough anyhow. So that's good. Now the one we're really concerned about is this one over here on the corner. We want to set it in here and make sure that it's going to go all the way back to that step and come out to our front corner. And looks like it's right on the money. We're good. All right. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and start installing our lag bolts. Well, this here's a rotary hammer. Rotary hammers make drilling into concrete a lot easier. It's left over from my construction days. But you know, you don't have to have a rotary hammer to drill into the concrete. A lot of drills nowadays have a hammer function on them, and that will help you to get in there. But even a regular drill will still drill holes into the concrete. You just need to make sure that you have a regular concrete bit. There's a difference between a concrete bit and a wood or a steel bit. If you try to use a wood or a steel bit to drill into concrete, you're just going to destroy the bit. When you're using a hammer drill or a rotary hammer, you don't want to put a lot of pressure on them, because that actually defeats the purpose of the hammering mechanism inside them. If you put too much pressure on them, it can't do the hammering motion as well. So it's really better just to put a slight amount of pressure on it and let the drill do the work. If you're using a regular drill that doesn't have a hammering action, then you may need to put a little more pressure on it. Whenever I purchased my lags, I made sure, my lag shields, I made sure that they were the same size as my drill bit. So we wanted to make sure that we had a good fit there. The outside diameter of my lag shields is 5/8 of an inch. So I'm using a 5/8 inch drill bit. Now what we want to do is we want to drill some holes in here and put the lag shields down in there, and then screw the bolts into them, leaving the bolt out, sticking up out of the concrete about 2 or 3 inches, so that our new concrete will have something to grab to and keep that cement from kicking out at a later time. So here we go. I'm going to go ahead and drill my first hole. I'm just going to drill it back in here a little ways. There we go, now we got it. Okay, now we have all our lags and lag holes drilled and our lag shields put in place. And what we're going to do is start putting the bolts in. As I said before, we want to run the bolts in and leave them sticking out of the above the surface of the concrete, about maybe 2 or 3 inches, something so that the new concrete will have something to grab hold of. So I start out by running it in hand tight with my fingers as far as I can. Now I'm going to take a wrench and continue to turn the bolt in till it's snug. And then once we have it snug, see, it's still sticking up above the surface of the concrete. Then that way, when the cement dries around this, it can't pull out, it can't kick out.